if you don't mean that God actually literally had a wife, and by the way, God could not condemn fornication for us and then commit fornication himself. That's why God must have had a wife, not a mistress or a girlfriend or stuff. Well, no, but So, what do we mean? Did God adopt Jesus as a son? Is that fitting for God? The Quran asks this question. Is it befitting the majesty of God that he should take for himself and adopt for himself a son? Well, all you have to do, let's just think of it in human terms to understand something. If I bought with myself today, a little goldfish, in a bag. I say, this is Jaws, my son. You say, Abdurrahim, that's a goldfish. No, it is a goldfish, but he has a room in the house. He sits with me at dinner, on the table. The adoption papers are coming through next week. That is my son. And you say, look, you're a human being, that's a fish. You can't have a fish as your son. If you want a son or adopt a son, you need something like you, a human being. Yes? It's very easily understood. So then, what is the comparison? I am much more like a fish than I am like God. If we insult each other by saying, you son of a dog, you son of a cow, your mother's a snake. Yes, your mother-in-law is a dog. If that's how we insult each other, right? Why? Because why am I insulted? You called me an animal. I am not an animal, I'm a human being. Yet, some people go around saying, God has a son, who is a human being. A human being. What are human beings? We are little creatures. Fly up in an aeroplane and see human beings. In fact, you can't see human beings because they're little specks. On an earth that is a speck. In a solar system that is a speck on the outer spiral of our galaxy, which is 100,000 light years across. The galaxy is one of millions of galaxies in a universe that is estimated to be 10 billion light years across. But God's son was a speck and a speck on a speck and a speck. That's insulting God. That's making one so great like something incredibly small. That is why, in fact, the Quran says the heavens are ready to rent asunder and the mountains are ready to crumble into ruin because the people say God has a son. It's insulting God. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. What does it mean, actually, these words? We find really it doesn't mean anything. Now I want to talk about something slightly different. Materialism. It's not a new philosophy. Thinking that this world, money and power and technology and science. We may think in this day and age that it is unprecedented. This is the age of science and technology. But in fact, in reality, if we look in human history, we can look at the ancient Egyptians. The Quran gives the example of Ad and Thamud. People who were incredibly intelligent. Could build the most amazing structures. They were extremely gifted, intelligent. They had great engineering capabilities. Yet, Allah says in the Quran, travel the earth. Go on, travel the earth. And see what happened to those people who rejected faith. Of course, in reality, this is the one of this thing is the one that seems to have more of a real impact in our lives. It does seem that money could, in some ways, make our life better. It does seem that technology and medicine can make our life better. It may seem to some people that these things could therefore give us everything. But that, in reality, is an illusion. Because we only need to see many civilizations that came before us travel to Rome. I remember whenever I go up north, not up north, when I used to go to Middlesbrough, almost always I used to make a trip to Hadrian's Wall. It's not that far. And I used to do it to think about something. I used to stand on that wall and I used to look south. And I would think to myself, once a Roman soldier stood here and he must have looked south and thought, as far as I can see and as far as I can travel is Rome. Where is Rome now? The ancient Egyptians who built pyramids, people can't even figure how they built them. How was their wealth? The Persians, who when the Muslims went to see the General Rostrum, the Sahaba Rabia, he walked over a carpet that was inlaid with precious stones. A huge, massive carpet on which everyone was sitting on chairs. These are the nations that came before. Where are they? What happened to them? With all their power and all their wealth and all their technology that they had amassed, what benefit did it really have for them in the end? Even the Muslim civilization. We often talk as Muslims. We talk about Alhambra. Alhambra, the peak of art and architecture, the beautiful irrigation system that still exists in southern Spain today. Yet look at the reality. The reality is that the king of Granada, Abdullah, the last king of Granada, he finished Alhambra 2 years later. The Spanish conquistadors came and threw him out. Ferdinand and Isabella, 2 years after, they threw him out. What did his palace achieve for him? You know what it achieved for him? He stood on the hill crying. Crying. His mother said to him, "You cry like a child for what you couldn't fight like a man. You cry like a child for what you couldn't fight for like a man." What did his wealth do? What did his palace do? In fact, Howard Hughes, they got the film about him now, The Aviator. I remember reading about that guy when I was a teenager. The Onassis family, the Gettys, the Rockefellers. Read the lives of these people. If wealth equals happiness, there's something wrong with that equation, because a lot of them don't seem very happy to me. So Allah says in the Quran, travel the earth. See what happened to those people. You think, really, that success is in these things? There were people that knew greater in wealth. Greater. Yet look at their traces. That's what Allah, God has left some traces of their civilizations for us to learn a lesson by it. The point being, those who put their faith in those things, and they put their trust in those things, they put their faith and trust in something ultimately that will let them down. It will let them down. There is another thing, another type of God that people have. This God is nationalism, racism. Maybe I'm not using the right word. It is the belief that because I am born of a certain race or a certain tribe of people, I am innately superior and gifted